Good morning. Well, there we go. Just trying to get that thing to stop and it wouldn't. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. It's a foggy morning. Pretty foggy out looking like. Yes, it is. We have how many days to Christmas? Boy, not very many. Morning, Andrea. Morning, Ashley. Morning, Debbie. It is Christmas is getting here quick. Valerie, good morning. Morning, Brad Mays. We have 8 days, is that right? I don't know, we got one Sunday before Christmas. I guess today's Wednesday, so we'll do our Christmas Eve service there at the church there in Carrier, 5 o'clock Wednesday. So make plans for that if you like to come out to a candlelight service. It's pretty cool service, usually really well attended, and the weather's going to be pretty warm. They're saying 60 or 65, I think, in those days, roughly. Morning, Katie. Morning, Bill. Morning, Bill Mayhew and Bill Wilkins. Good to see y'all on here. Morning, Daryl. Yeah, it's going into hopefully a time where family can get together and everybody's good. Melissa, good morning. Good morning, Boyd Pete. There's times that, this time of year is stressful. I know for those who've lost family members and that sort of thing, it's a tough time of the year. But God gives us strength to get through those things, I know. We had to deal with some of that many, many years ago as my dad passed on a couple of weeks before Christmas. So Regina, good morning. Good morning, Jessica. I don't see you on here, Regina, but it's show. I got a notification on there. For anybody that doesn't have YouTube or doesn't have Facebook and wants to watch on YouTube, you can tell your friends that I don't see the comments. I don't go to that page and they can comment. I don't go and look at that much. We've kept that page going in case because I know, like for the kids program, we broadcast it, I believe, over onto my High Call Youth YouTube, so that people who didn't have Facebook could watch. And morning, Paul. Morning, Jared. Morning, Jeff Washburn. Good morning, Tyson. And so that was so anyway, we just had, that's just so you're aware. Let's jump into the Word. We got Good group on here this morning, and let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. I want to share something. I was just, in prayer seeking the Lord on what to share, and I came across this topic, the topic of division or strife. You know, some of you, and going into the Christmas season, sometimes there's stress in families, not because of a loss or anything like grief, but a stress because of the differences of opinions or things that have happened in the past. And let me just tell you this, that the devil loves for us to be divided. The thing that he fears the most is for us to be walking in unison with God and each other. Now, there's the difficulty or the struggle is in some situations there's just no winning, and so somebody has to give in. Somebody has to give way. It appears always. I don't want to get into how arguments work and all of that, but I've watched people from a pastor's perspective, knowing what goes on in people's lives, maybe more so than some. Not because I choose to, but because people bring me prayer requests or desires that they want to see families healed and that sort of thing. Most of the time, it's not gossip. Sometimes people bring me gossip. I don't get involved in that, but I want you to think about this: that when the devil can keep us occupied with issues with people, division, strife, drama, then he holds us into a place that's busy with things of the flesh instead of walking in the Spirit. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, talks about this. There's people that love to watch TV programs that are all about drama. I don't understand that. I just, it wears me out. I sit there and we try to find something to watch, and sometimes and there's so many shows. That's why I quit watching Yellowstone. That's why I quit watching, or have never. Well, that and the language was kind of over the top, but I could get over that quicker than I could get over the constant strife. Now, I'm not knocking your program if you love that program, and not saying you're going to hell if you're watching Yellowstone. I'm not saying that at all. But there was a constant battle, a constant fight, constant division. Now, let's throw that illustration. Don't get distracted with that illustration. Just simply understand that in our lives, when we operate like that, we're going to be ruled by our emotions, our flesh, and we're going to struggle to be led by the Spirit of God. The Holy Spirit brings life and brings peace. He brings the love of God. He brings, when there's disagreement. I said this when I preached on this a few months back. I said, you can disagree with let's see, how do I say that? You can disagree without, without being rude, without dividing. But there's ways to disagree. Now, some things and some people won't allow that, and you may have to separate yourself. That's a whole nother sermon and conversation. But I want you to see what it did, and this is why the devil loves this. Two things is, if he can keep Christians separated and families divided, he can cause us to lose out on the power that comes when we work together. There is a power when we work together. Now, what the devil will do, and what our flesh will do, is we will jump in the middle of something and take a side, pick a side. Sometimes it's not even against us. Some people will jump in and, they want to fight for their friend or their family member or their kid or their whatever. And it just becomes a real big deal. And I don't know why I'm teaching this morning. We're not dealing with this in our church. We're not dealing with this in our family. And nobody has brought me this problem and said, hey, you need to teach on this. It's simply a biblical principle. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul says, dear brothers and sisters, when I was with you, I couldn't talk to you as if you were, as I would with spiritual people. I had to talk to you as though you belonged to this world and as though you were mere infants in the Christian life. I had to feed you with milk, not with solid food, because you weren't ready for anything stronger. You still aren't ready, for you are still controlled by your sinful nature. You're jealous of one another. You quarrel with each other. And doesn't that prove that you're controlled by your sinful nature? Aren't you living like people of the world? Now, the Apostle Paul, the man who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, greatest man as far as the effect on the Christian walk outside of Jesus, but behind Jesus, this man had more to do with giving us information for our lives and was establishing all these churches. This man walked into their church, came to them, and he said, I couldn't preach to you the meat of the word. I had to give you milk. I had to give you the stuff that babies take, and he didn't say because you'd just gotten into this. He's saying that you're still living ruled by your sinful nature. Your flesh, you're letting your flesh rule. Now, there's a battle. There's a process of learning. This isn't something that is a judgment, but and a criticism. It's something though that we need to look at and take responsibility. If we're allowing our flesh to rule and we're saying, I want me first, I want my color of carpet in the church, I want my way of doing things. I'm just throwing that out as an illustration. You would be amazed if you'd been in church a long time. Anytime there's change or anything new, it's people just sometimes just offer your opinion and then let's move on, okay? But that type of thing, and boy, we walk such a careful walk. I do to balance all that and keep all those things flowing together, and it works. But here's what we don't want to do, is let those little things affect us the way the world would do. Because see, here's what happens, is the world takes something, somebody look at you sideways, somebody say something about you, somebody does something, and they hold it. And I'm going to get them back. And I'm going to be bitter about it. And God says don't do that. God says walk in forgiveness. God says love one another. Pray for your enemy. He tells us a completely different way to live. Now, this is just one area of being led by our flesh, or being led by our spirit instead of our flesh. This is just one area that we have to grow in. So you can disagree without it becoming an issue. I'm having trouble. I've got a phrase that I used and I can't quite spit it out. It'll come to me here in a minute. He says, you're still living like the world. See, the world holds things. Here's what the devil loves. He loves you to get offended by someone who claims to be a Christian, and maybe he is a Christian. I don't know about you, but I've offended people and not even known it. Without doing it intentionally. Sometimes I don't even know about it. It comes back to me later. Somebody says I did something. I don't do that a lot, and I certainly don't try to do that. Sometimes we have problems, and people hold on to things, and they get offended or they move on in life, but they limit. Don't be led by your sinful nature and your flesh, and let things go. Sometimes that keeps people, because they were hurt by somebody in the church, then they quit church completely. Carrier has been our church has been a place of healing and restoration for a lot of people, and a lot of churches are this way. We're not the only ones. But it blesses my heart when people come back to church who hadn't been in church for years and years. And they sometimes it was because of something that someone did and they struggled with church. Well, listen, church is full of imperfect people, but the one we can control and one we can be responsible for is us. I can choose not to. I've had things, I've been in this for all my adult life. I've been working in ministry. I've worked outside in a lot of other jobs as well during that time. But I've never, in the last 35 years, not been in the church in a position of ministry, teaching, ministering, whatever. So I've experienced this. I could be completely out of the ministry. I could completely have washed my hands of Christians and just, I'm going to love God, but I'm not going to worship with people. Man, I tell you, that's not the place you want to be. You want to be where God can minister to you and grow you. Many of you, most of you, and a lot of you were people who, if you knew some of those stories, you'd be mad at the people who who did things to me as a in ministry. And I'm trying not to share too much because I don't want. I mean, it's been a long time ago. Okay, but there's been times. There's always opportunity to be divided. There's always opportunity to take offense. There's always opportunity. But if I endeavor to follow the Spirit of God and be led by the Spirit of God, I put myself in a position to say, okay, God, what I can't do, you can do. Where I'm limited and weak, you make me strong. Where what I don't understand, I can put faith in you that you see my life from the beginning to the end, and I'm not going to be held back or limited by what others do. I'm going to walk in freedom to trust you. Now, here's what he says. He says, when one of you says, I'm a follower of Paul, and another says, I'm a follower of Apollos, aren't you acting just like people of the world? In other words, they were arguing about who was better, and I'm with this guy, and I see that sometimes with Christians in church. Well, I go to this church, and it's the best, and they're all wrong. Carrier's the best. The church I pastor is best, right? No, I mean, there's different ways and styles for different people. Our church isn't big enough to get everybody in it. We are called to reach people in someone else's church, and I have friends that are pastors, and I'm glad or I'm excited and celebrate with them as they do things, and it works out well. He goes on down here. He says. Some water, some plant. I'm trying to go through this fairly fast. It's not as important about who does the planting or who does the watering. It's important. What's important is that God makes the seed grow. The one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose, and both will be rewarded for their own hard work. For we are both God's workers, and you are God's field, you are God's building. Because of God's grace to me, I have laid a foundation like an expert builder. Now others are building on it. But whoever is building on this foundation must be very careful. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one that we already have in Jesus Christ. So he just draws it back and he says, hey, it's important that we follow God in the Scripture. So when you start building something, if you start building something that's separate from God, then it's wrong. Now back to my point here. There is so much, and I got to wrap this up, I know, but there is so much in this teaching, and this goes far beyond church. In your family, some of you will be miserable during the Christmas holiday because you have to go be around Uncle so-and-so or sister or this or that or the other. And I struggle with that. I mean, I feel for you in that. But put it in a trust to God, and don't be sucked into drama that's unnecessary. Allow or put that into God's hands and say, God, give me the strength to walk in faith. And here's the other thing: don't let it carry over into your life with God. When we come to God, we can unload all the backpack of baggage, every sin, every care, every concern, and we offer ourselves to God and we say, okay, God, if you are jealous, admit it. Say, God, I'm jealous of that person. They've got everything, and I don't. They don't deserve it. Just give that to God. It could be, I want to be this or that. Trust in God. Release it. Don't be divided. And here for every family, when we're divided, we're unable to be our best. So just put that in God's hands. There's something that happens. I had a Ephesians 4:13. It says that when we arrive, when we walk in unity of our faith and unity with others, that we'll arrive at the full stature of Christ. So the devil's at work. Don't give him any ground. Listen, I got to wrap this up and get out of here, but get you guys on with your day. Just know that I love you, and if you've got ideas or questions or examples from that, you can message me or comment or whatever. But God is always at work in those that are willing to give their heart and life to Him. So do that today. Love y'all. Go get them for Jesus. Whoo! Good morning, Robin. Yes, good word. Thank you. Morning, Joe. Morning, Ron Wade. Morning, Mom. Good morning, Mara. Morning, Joel. Morning, Scott. Misty, good morning. Bobby, good morning. Morning, Sean Mayfield. Speaking of good churches and pastors, down in Waurika, if you're in southern part of the state, Cowboy Church down there with a nice indoor win. Speaking of jealousy, oh man, a cowboy that likes to use horses and rope and stuff, and even though I don't rope much anymore, I would if I had an indoor arena, by golly, like Sean Mayfield's Cowboy Church down in Waurika. Man, what a building. I could be jealous if I let my flesh rule, but I just am happy for my brother, and I like the fact that I can go down there once in a while. I need to come down and see you. All right, I better get off here.